Andrew, Carrie, I really appreciate y'all being here with me on the Social Entrepreneurship and Innovation podcast. For folks who are unfamiliar with you and the work that y'all do, would Andrew mind diving in first and foremost to introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. My name's Andrew. I'm one of the co-founders of Holden, and we are a custom jewelry company, and we focus and specialize on custom wedding rings, and we just want to make the experience as easy and enjoyable and inclusive as possible for couples to be able to design a custom ring.
Excellent. And Carrie?
I think Andrew summed it up pretty well. I think inclusivity is something that's really important for us. I would add that our entire collection is gender neutral, so kind of resets the idea of traditional wedding expectations and what it means and what your ring should look like based on your gender. So that is a really important thing for us as well.
Lovely. And much of the reason why we're having this conversation here is because of Annie and I coming across y'all when we were looking for my wedding band. So doing some digging and researching, really glad that we came across Holden. For folks watching this on video, there's a little shot of the ring that I have. I've likewise written a pretty comprehensive review on our experience in seeking that out, and as well many of the things that y'all do differently, which I know we'll dive into here, and that you briefed us on quite quickly there. But I'd love to start as to understand a bit more of the origin of Holden. And Andrew, maybe this is best served from you first and foremost. Why does Holden exist? What was the reason that you founded this business in the first place?
I guess we can kind of start with I met my co-founder in college, and we ended up interning together one summer, became really good friends, and then after we graduated, my co-founder Simon, he actually really wanted to create kind of like a meaningful product. And so he first started out by designing these bracelets that, us as friends all kind of thought were really cool. And it was kind of like him kind of getting started at like kind of creating a brand and kind of story around products that he thought were really meaningful to him. And I was working another job, but just started kind of helping him out on nights and weekends. Eventually, we came out with a full collection of jewelry. The brand was called Mujo. And what we would do is we would kind of go around on Saturday mornings all around New York City and kind of set up our booth at flea markets. And it was just a really good chance for us to get to talk to a lot of customers and just kind of, make a lot of mistakes, but also just kind of like figure out how to create products and make really high quality products that customers really liked. And what ended up happening while we were doing that is we had a lot of customers, and especially a lot of couples, come up to us and say like, hey, we really like these rings that you have, but can we customize them a little bit? Can we get them in gold? Can we get them a little bit wider? Can we actually get like a little bit of a different design? And, in the beginning, we just, we said yes to all the requests and kind of were figuring it out as we went along. But while that was happening, while we were getting a lot of these custom requests, we also just heard from a lot of couples, just a lot of horror stories that they had while shopping for jewelry, especially with wedding rings. Traditionally, if you go into a store, it can be sort of this overwhelming, almost intimidating experience where, there could be a salesperson, they kind of throw a lot of jargon at you. And before you know it, you're like kind of staring at this expensive invoice and you're not even really sure if you like the ring. And then if you go online on a lot of other websites, it's just overwhelming how many options there are. There's not a lot of transparency. And for a lot of couples, like really painfully, everything is sort of branded and presented in very normative ways. So you really kind of only see kind of one type of couple or like one type of, person represented. And so we were just like, this doesn't make any sense to us. We know how to make great jewelry. Let's create an experience that's, actually enjoyable. It makes it really easy for you to design exactly what you want in your wedding ring. Be really transparent and accessible about everything. And then also just, create that experience that's really inclusive. So, we made it one of our philosophies from the start to just be as inclusive as possible and be welcoming and celebrate all couples.
Mm. And Carrie, when did you come into the fold?
I started about 2 years ago in November of 2019. I was the first full-time employee, which was really, really fun, and came on in a marketing role and has sort of expanded since then. And it's been great. It's been really fun because it's such a small company to feel like a real collaborator, and Andrew and Simon are super open to any ideas, and we've grown so much since I started. We now have, I think, 7 full-time employees. Yeah. So it's been really exciting to sort of be part of that beginning team with Andrew and Simon.
And so what's that feel like for both of y'all? This sense that the team is growing, that as well, I guess the message and how you've positioned yourselves is really resonating with a community of people. What's that experience been like?
It's been fantastic. I think one of my favorite parts of my job is getting an Instagram DM from somebody who said that they'd never seen a couple that looked like them before from any other jewelry company, and they felt like they were being truly represented. And one thing that we started doing within the last couple of years as well, sort of to contribute to our representation or our commitment to representation, was that we now donate 1% of all sales to the Trevor Project, which is the largest suicide prevention organization for LGBTQ plus youth. And so that's really important to us. And we're talking about a bunch of different organizations, but we really love Trevor because it's very clear where donations go. And we also really love the idea of supporting LGBTQ plus youth and giving them the love and support that we're seeing our couples celebrate at their weddings. So sort of knowing that there's somebody there with you from the beginning, because it's obviously coming out as such a difficult process for some people. And so being able to sort of support a younger generation while we're seeing the celebration and joy of the generations that we're working with.
And Andrew, anything to add?
What is really cool about the Trevor Project is, especially during the pandemic, there's been, an uptick in a lot of just kind of like difficulties that especially LGBTQ youth have been going through. A lot of the resources that they might have had at school or while they were kind of out doing activities, a lot of those have gone away. And so I think Trevor has just been able to touch like so many more youth over the last, year and a half. And so just kind of knowing that like we're able to directly contribute to that effort, like for the whole team, it just has been like super fulfilling, knowing that like we're donating to like a cause that has like a tangible effect, and is not just going into, some black hole that we're not really sure of what they're actually doing.
Yeah, there's, I think, a statistic that if there's one supportive adult in your life, then LGBTQ plus youth are 40% less likely to attempt suicide. So Trevor Project is a hotline resource, among other things. So it's a way for, if you don't feel anybody in your own community, you can really connect with somebody else who is there to support you. And so it's really been super meaningful for us to support that organization.
And how'd you get connected with that partnership in the first place? Like why them specifically, and how did their name come across your search?
Carrie, I think it was one of your first big projects.
Yeah, I remember talking about it in my interview with you and wanting to find an organization that we could support to sort of continue the support of LGBTQ plus couples. And it really started with just doing research on different organizations. There are so many fantastic ones out there. So at the end of the day, we had to pick one, and we do support other organizations throughout the year. But I think Trevor, again, it's very clear what's happening with them, and you can see the impact that you're having. And I think being able to support a younger generation is something that is really exciting to us, because our couples have found that love and support. And so we want to kind of let younger LGBTQ plus youth know that that love and support is to come, and that there is a community out there for them. And so it's something that, a marriage is a celebration of that community and of that love. And so really giving people that support at an earlier age so that they can then find that later on in life is something that's really important to us.
And I think this very component of something that y'all focus on at Holden really kind of adds to this whole conversation of, more of what is the core to the business at Holden, which is, providing people with these very important and meaningful rings and bands and symbols of, an important bond and experience in their lives. It's something that I noticed as Annie and I got engaged, and we started to think, what sort of band or ring would be appropriate for me. She was taken care of. There was a family heirloom in the conversation. So it was just really a consideration for me, and what would actually be meaningful and what would be valuable. And it's quite the significant purchase, not necessarily in the sense of just dollar value. It can be that, but that's not necessarily what has to equal meaningful, I suppose. And that was probably kind of the highest metric, which is one that's, subjective to who is the purchaser, the beholder, as to what is actually meaningful. And so I know listeners of this show, especially when it comes to something that is, such a significant, meaningful purchase, something that, you're going to be looking at every single day, and something that's going to represent something for you far more than just, what it is. I'm curious to hear if we could walk through a little bit as to what Holden's philosophy is as we would approach the process, someone who's considering choosing a wedding band or choosing a wedding ring. Because what I love about my own experience, Annie and I's experience in choosing a ring from y'all, is that it seemed like it changed really what that experience would be, kind of redefined it and set a new standard for it. Because exactly as you're saying, I think, Andrew, you mentioned, the traditional experience of it might be going into a jeweler. You're weighing if that sales rep will have your kind of best interests in mind. If they do, in fact, I'm sure there are, good sales reps at jewelers, but it's hard to tell just because, that what is their incentive? Are they there to put pressure on you, or, are they there to really kind of walk you through finding something that's going to fit nicely? So I'd love to start a little bit from the beginning. If someone is to stumble upon Holden, how does this look different in the experience of starting to choose and seek out the right ring for them, and perhaps contrast that with what maybe the experience might be traditionally? And I'm not sure whichever one of y'all might be best apt to kick it off.
Yeah, I can sort of talk about kind of what the experience is like, from start to finish, kind of when you first find out about us. I think where if I had to sum up like how we're different, like in like one quick sentence, it's sort of like we kind of want to do everything we can to give the power back to the couple and the customer, and that that can mean a couple of things. I think first, from just kind of like the shopping and the product perspective, when you first come onto our site, and you kind of want to shop through our different options, it seems like at first that there aren't that many options. And we kind of do that intentionally because we've just from like doing research and just kind of hearing anecdotally and also just like personally, the last thing I ever want to do is go on a site and just be hit with a wall of product, and like you see pages 1 to 30 and it's like you don't even know where to begin. You can try to sort it, but it's still really confusing. So we always have started by kind of making that first choice. You're just kind of like picking the base design, and it's kind of like a blank canvas. And then once you do kind of click into one of the designs that you like, then from there, we try our best to make it just a very straightforward step-by-step You can pick kind of the width you want, the metal that you want. And then every time you click on something and change something and, design the ring, the rendering will evolve right in front of you. The pricing will also adjust so you can super transparently understand exactly how your choices affect the price. There's no like hidden formula, and then all of a sudden at the end, when you're about to check out, you don't get to see the price until then. We want to just make it super step by step. And then when it comes to actually kind of picking the different options, we don't want to give 50 options for like the width or like 50 options for like the type of metals. We want to keep it really simple, give customers enough choice so that they have the power to really design the ring that they want, but not make it a super overwhelming experience either. And then finally, if there is something that customer wants, but it's not like standard on the site, they can always just reach out to like our awesome customer experience team. And we pretty much bend over backwards to try to make as like the request happen. If it's something that we can do, like we'll do everything we can to make it happen. And we just try to be really accessible. At no point will we ever put any pressure on anyone to like design something. We'll never try to upsell you. We just want you and your partner to feel like you're designing exactly what you want. You're getting a really fair value for it. And you feel like you're really welcomed, during the whole experience.
Yeah, I think to add to that, it's the first time that you most likely have bought a wedding ring. So we don't make any assumptions that you know anything about it, because I think that can be very intimidating if you're not a jewelry person and suddenly you need to know about carat versus carat and what the difference is between a K carat and a C carat. And so we have the resources available for you if you need them. So next to everything, there's a little question mark. So we'll walk you through what a matte finished ring will look like versus a mirror finished ring, or we'll have a whole blog post on a lab grown diamond, or what 14 karat will mean versus 18 karat. And oh, you don't know your ring size? We'll send you a free ring size kit. You can't decide, you need a little bit of extra help, we'll do a virtual appointment with you over the internet, or we'll do an in-person appointment with you. So we're accessible to you whenever you need us. I have super long DM conversation back and forth with people sending photos of rings on my hand, different stacks, different carats, things like that. And so we're there for you every step of the way, but we're not putting any pressure on you. So we're there for you as much as you need us, but we're never going to be breathing down your neck as you're making the decision, which I think is kind of sets us apart, but also makes it, we're not intimidating, I hope.
No, you don't come off that way at all.
And I think just like finally, we try to be like really thoughtful with our entire, manufacturing, production, and fulfillment process. We believe really strongly in local manufacturing. So all of our rings are produced in New York City. Our office is right on the corner of the Diamond District. For those of you who haven't been to kind of Midtown Manhattan before, there's this kind of one block where there's just such a high concentration of jewelry manufacturers that they produce a lot of volume and some of the highest quality, since there's just such a high amount of talent right there. And so we make everything locally, and we try to be as sustainable as possible with our entire process. Carrie, do you want to talk about some of the things, because I know that you have really helped us implement a lot of the sustainability initiatives? Yeah,
sure. So I think sustainability is really important to us. I think it's a hot topic right now, and just was really part of why the brand was formed. And it's sort of how we started talking to you and Annie, actually, was about sustainability. So I think you were saying that we make everything locally. And another thing that I think is really important is that we make every single ring custom to order. So we don't have any back stock. Every ring that you order, you want a 14 karat, 3 millimeter wide eternity band. we will make that ring exactly for you. We will engrave what you want in that ring. And so we don't have a bunch of those in every single size. So that means that we don't really have any waste, and we'll resize your ring for free for you for the rest of your life. So you never have to replace the ring. We also, if you do end up returning the ring, we'll melt down all returns to become new rings. We actually make all of our rings from recycled precious metal. We are 100% recycled gold right now, and we are working very hard towards becoming 100% recycled platinum within the next couple years. So that's something that's really exciting, and we're continuing to try and grow there. We also use lab-grown diamonds, which are really exciting for us because they're 100% traceable, because there is a lot of controversy about the diamond with the diamond industry, and mined diamonds sometimes being blood diamonds or not ethically sourced, and there's a lot of environmental impact with that. And so that's really important to us, is to use lab-grown diamonds. On top of that, this is actually from you as well. This was a recommendation from Annie. We became climate neutral after talking to Annie for the first time.
All right.
Which was really exciting. And so we measure and offset 100% of our carbon emissions every year, which is great. And that's something that we just started and was a new initiative in 2021. So I think there's 300 brands that became certified this year, and we're one of them. So we're really excited. So thank you for the recommendation.
Yeah.
And, we're trying to be conscious about our packaging. We're actually going through a rebrand right now, and we're figuring out sort of creative ways to do either more recycled packaging or being able to reuse the ring box. And so that's something that's exciting as well. But yeah, I think that environmentalism is really, really important to us, and sort of a core tenet of our brand.
And I mean, it's those components as well that kind of add into the overall conversation of, what makes the product itself, these rings, more meaningful. And that was a big consideration for Annie and I in the process, is that, while not, again, as you mentioned, Carrie, we were by no means jewelry experts, and have no intention of becoming that. It was nice to find folks like y'all who that are very transparent, and as you mentioned, there's extensive documentation of being a resource on the blog, or what you show and display about the step-by-step of your process. It was very helpful, actually, those little question marks, with the widths, the carat, the finish, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, you actually clicked them.
Absolutely, because it's that level of ignorance that Annie's a little bit more kind of more assertive than I am. And so if we were to go into a jeweler as an example, I would probably just pretend like I knew something, just kind of like, yep, no problem, and then I'd go research it later. But she would probably ask the question more straight up. So it was useful for me. I love that sort of thing, to kind of have the additional supplementary information. So it was nice to know. And it seems like it's that kind of pace in which you would want to make something that's such a significant decision. It's at your comfort. It's something that you probably look at and look at again, over the course of time, as opposed to the experience of perhaps going into a jeweler and the pressure may be on to feel like you need to make a decision that moment, while you're there in the shop. I don't know how many times people would go back in and out, to do their own due diligence, but there is some pressure in there, because you imagine that the folks running the business might want to, make the sale that day. However, it's nice to have that experience of taking your own time, browsing options, as well as, prices. I think that was something that really stood out to y'all as an option, is that there's quite the scale too. And you're pretty transparent as to how y'all are able to obtain those prices, in contrast to maybe more of a traditional kind of retail markup. And that's, because that's not always what is really going to be a difference maker for people, as far as, what represents what's meaningful and what's valuable. You want to know that something is quality, of course, but it's also nice to not feel like, you're being taken in some sort of way, I suppose. And I'd be curious to hear, at least for, if you could expound for the listeners a bit, like, how are y'all able to get the pricing structure that you have, as opposed to maybe more traditional options?
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's a couple of components. The first one is we produce everything directly, and we only sell, directly to the customer. So we don't have to bake in wholesale margins, which is, very common in kind of the fashion and the jewelry industry. By selling everything direct, it's a much fairer price. And then also, since everything is custom made to order, we don't need to build in like an additional margin for shrinkage and waste that inevitably happens when you do hold inventory. We also never need to have like some kind of like massive sale, at the end of every season to get rid of, things that didn't sell. So, we believe strongly in, kind of offering a fair price all year round, and, selling it kind of direct to the customer.
That's excellent. And I because that is really something that is reassuring to know that it's not just a matter of like what time of year you're deciding to make a purchase, or perhaps, what store you went to at what moment, to where you got a good deal or not. Like that doesn't feel good for something that is supposed to be such a meaningful purchase, to where that's probably the last thing that you want to think about on an ongoing basis. Yeah.
And, kind of going along with, one of our main tenets of being accessible, we do have a wide range of options and prices, so we want to make sure that, we can cater to someone, who is looking to get something maybe with like a lot of diamonds and like a lot of material, but also someone who kind of wants something simpler, and doesn't want to break the bank and pay an arm and a leg for a fully custom ring. So we just kind of want to be able to provide enough options for everyone to feel like, they're getting a really great value and also getting exactly what they want, which usually it's a compromise, but we try our very best to give you the best of both worlds.
Yeah, one thing that I find really exciting is we do a blog series where we interview Holden couples and ask them about their wedding and how they got engaged. And I also would like to know how you and Annie got engaged, Corey, because it's one of my favorite questions, but we'll get back to that. But one question that we always ask is why you chose Holden and what mattered to you while you were buying a ring. And what is really exciting to me is that the answers are different every time. It's not the same thing. So sometimes it's an LGBTQ plus couple that says, you really spoke to me and my community, and I felt included by you and represented and wanted to support the Trevor Project. And another person said, it's really important to me that a brand cares about sustainability and the environment. I wanted a ring with lab-grown diamonds. And another person says, I was looking for something that wasn't going to break the bank. And so I think, accessibility in that way financially is really important, and to make sure that we are able to access all of those couples who might have different price ranges that they're looking in. And at the end of the day, it's your ring symbolizes so much and will become an heirloom no matter what. And I think that's really exciting, because I know you were saying Annie has an heirloom, but your ring one day will become one as well. And that's so cool that these rings kind of will live on and just contain so much.
Exactly. And I do love that there are a lot of different access points, I guess, as you mentioned there, Carrie, as to what maybe drove someone to make the final decision, but each one in their own right does kind of add to the overall experience of, someone coming in from a sustainability component first and foremost, may find out about everything else that y'all do, and that adds to their experience, as adding another layer onto like, oh, this is an even better reason to make this decision this way, and this significant purchase for ourselves. And so I'd be interested to know what are some things that Holden isn't doing right now that y'all are most excited about adding in to your operation, or adding into your goals, objectives, and initiatives moving forward?
Yeah, one thing that is really exciting. Well, we have two really exciting things coming up, actually. One is that we are opening up a storefront, which is going to be really exciting in New York. Because I think, it's so great that people all over the country and all over the world can purchase our rings, but some people do want to be able to have that personal experience, see the rings themselves. And so now we're offering that option for people, which is very exciting to have. And then the other thing is that We are going to be launching a line of engagement rings, which is something that I'm super excited about. This was something that I've been wanting to do, and I'm really psyched about it. And so that's within the context of Holden, like the entire collection is going to be gender neutral as well. And so that's something that's really important to us. And we actually do have a lot of couples already purchase our bands as engagement rings. And so we just want to kind of continue to expand that and make that something that is accessible for all of our couples. So those are sort of two big things. I don't know if you want to expand on them. I kind of spoiled both of them.
No, that's great. And, in terms of the store, to start, it's going to be a showroom space where, couples can come in, try on all the rings, and also just kind of get like that, start to kind of feel that Holden energy. I kind of like internally like to say, it's going to be like the anti-jewelry store. We're not going to have this like fluorescent lighting with just like hundreds of glass cases and everything's just kind of, you can't touch it and you can't like really like feel comfortable in there. So, it's just going to be like kind of really open. There's going to be some comfortable appointment tables. And we just kind of want to have like, friendly conversations with people while showing them the rings and not make it this, negotiation appointment type of thing.
Well, that was going to be my next question as to how you would make the storefront unlike other jewelry storefronts. So good. It's good to know that that'll be well thought out and considered. And so, Carrie and Andrew, I want to be respectful of y'all's time here. Thank you so much for taking the time. But before we wrap up here, can I ask y'all a few rapid fire questions?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. So this first one, we'll go to Carrie. Andrew, you'll be answering the same one right after. But Carrie, starting with you, what's perhaps a book, a film, or some sort of resource, something that you always come back to, or something that maybe has impacted you recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners?
I think something that I reference all the time is Let My People Go Surfing by Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia. Mm-hmm. I think he really talks a lot about sustainability and creating a brand and how those two go hand in hand and in some ways conflict with one another. And every Patagonia piece is intended to be worn forever. They have a program where they'll help fix things. And so I think we are very similar to them in a lot of ways in terms of a lifetime investment in a piece. And I think he's brilliant. And we're both from Maine, so I feel very connected to him. So I think that's my recommendation.
Excellent. Sorry, Andrew. I was just going to say there's definitely a product design whole section there that you could just absolutely swipe and steal. That was so gold, that section. I absolutely loved it. But sorry, Andrew, to interrupt.
Yeah, and he's a big climber too, so I feel very connected.
I love that book too. I remember I went to the bookstore one day and just like picked it up and like started reading it and like ended up staying there, like standing at the counter and just like reading it for like a couple hours. But I think another book that I also really like a lot, and I introduced it to you too, the Shoe Dog. I mean, it's kind of like the classic, for a lot of like entrepreneurs. I think it's something I recommend in that it does a good job of like showing you like the struggle. I think it's very easy to glorify entrepreneurship, but if you feel compelled that this is something that you need to do, I wouldn't recommend it unless you feel like you can't not do it. And then if that's your path, definitely read this book because it will kind of show you like, and it's really real and raw, all the struggles, all the mistakes that, like Phil made on his way. And he's transparent about a lot of the mistakes that he's made and just kind of a lot of things that are in the path that are going to be really difficult. But it's like a really good look into sort of early stage, how to kind of get something off the ground. There's a lot of inspiring moments in the book too. So not to sound too down, but I definitely recommend that to anyone.
Yeah, Andrew handed that book to me on my first day, actually. So I didn't know so much about Nike until then. So it was a really interesting story.
those are some good recommendations. And I'd second that, Andrew. Entrepreneurship is it seems to be much about persistence and, how much you can kind of just hang around and keep figuring things out and problem solving, because it's certainly not easy, but if it's something that you feel very committed and driven to and something that you're very passionate about, it's like that for me, that feels like why I just couldn't work on a business that the end result was something that was just a profitable, successful business. It's like the overlap in very like purpose-driven, impact-driven entrepreneurship is that there was so much more meaning wrapped into that to me, to where I can't not continue on, despite all the challenges that come up. So I think that's a good bit that you added on to that. Next one for y'all. What's a daily habit or morning routine that you feel like you absolutely have to stick to? And Carrie, we'll start with you again.
Andrew and I are actually talking about this recently, looking at sort of founders' morning routines. And I wake up and I do my hour of yoga, and then I have my green juice, and then I go to the beach, etc. And I was then telling him that my morning routine is sort of waking up in a frenzy and getting to the train and doing all these things, and just arriving in the office always with some story of something crazy that happened on the L train. But I think for me, one thing that is sort of within all of that chaos is that I love to read my book on the train. I think that is something that is really important for me, to be able to kind of sit down with a novel. And it's too loud to really like effectively listen to podcasts on the train. And so I just love being able to just kind of dive into a book for half an hour before work, and then to be able to dive into a book for a half hour after work. So I think reading in the morning is really, really important for me.
For me, it's my cup of coffee. I know it's not the most exciting answer, but it sort of like kind of resets me, and it kind of gets me ready to, kind of tackle the morning queue of items.
Andrew's a big coffee guy. This I can confirm.
I'm with you on that. I have desire to add different, little routines and habits into this morning routine that I think that I have, but it's just dissolved mostly into focusing on the coffee is the one thing that I do most consistently. So, and I get up a little bit earlier than Annie. So there's just this moment where I'm drinking this coffee. I'm like, it's very quiet. Dogs aren't up yet, and there's something special about that tea won't do the same thing for me at all. So it's important that it's coffee. Next one for y'all, and you can't say Patagonia because I have a feeling that maybe you would. What's a brand or organization that y'all admire, that y'all look up to as some sort of model for what you're doing with Holden?
I think I can say Warby Parker. I know, again, it's sort of like a popular kind of answer to say, but I think recently there's actually been some news that came out. I think they're filing to go public. Yeah. And then a lot of the documentation that came out, it very clearly states that the founders there are just kind of doing things the right way, and are trying their best to be ethical with a lot of their decision making, and trying to do right by their employees and all their customers. So they were kind of one of the first to do it, and it's kind of cool to just see that they've sort of maintained such a high level of excellence as they've continued to scale, which is very difficult to do.
I think for me, it would be Le Labo, actually, which is a perfume company that is kind of, they say they were born in Grasse, France, and raised in New York. It's a Brooklyn-based company, and their entire collection is totally gender neutral as well. And I think that I have a lot of friends of all different genders who love Le Labo. And it's a bit out of my personal price range, but I think that it is really beautiful, and you can see where all of their products are sourced, and it is just, their branding is gorgeous. And every time I walk into a Le Labo store just to kind of sniff, it just calms me. And I think that they have a lot of beauty in their brand, and that's something that is really special to me. And my roommate wrote his whole thesis about Le Labo, so I feel very connected to it for a lot of reasons.
I feel like you wrote it.
Yes, I've read it many times. So.
Were you a co-author on it? Did you ask for that sort of site?
I was not. I was not mentioned in it, but I do. He ended up purchasing a Lavabo for himself, and sometimes I sneak a little bit for myself. So.
Awesome. All right, y'all. One last question. What's one piece of parting advice that you might leave our listeners with? These folks are change makers, innovators from all sectors, all over the globe. Whoever's ready to jump into this big, daunting, rapid fire or not so rapid fire question first, can have it.
If people ask me like, hey, like I've got this like business idea and kind of like ask like for my 2 cents, what I always say is, like, I don't think you should do it. And I say that like very strategically, because what I mean by that is if like me, just like kind of an acquaintance telling you not to do something and not to pursue something is enough to turn you off from doing it, then you definitely shouldn't be doing it. You're going to hear no so many times along the way. Your mindset needs to be like, there's nothing else I can do. Like, I can't not do this, and I'm going to like 100% do this, regardless of what you tell me or not. And so, I'm doing them a favor. If it's not something that they should be doing and they don't do it, then that's also a win. But then for them to just be like, thank you very much, but I'm still going to do this, then that's the right mindset to have.
And Carrie?
I think for me, it would be to either, I didn't found Holden, I work for Holden, but to either found or find as in seek out a company that already exists, a company that you really believe in. I was working in advertising before I started at Holden, and I really enjoyed it, but I sometimes found it difficult to come up with a brief for a company that I just didn't believe in what they did. And so it was really important for me to find a company that I wholeheartedly could stand behind. I feel like I am Holden's #1 cheerleader and come into the office every day ready to sing its praises to the world. And so that makes my job easy, is because like no matter what happens, I really stand behind the brand and feel like it really is making a difference. And it just makes me so happy to hear our customers echo that and feel as though it's making a difference to them. So I think finding a company that you really, really believe in, it's kind of similar advice to yours, but I think just like from a moral standpoint, I think that's something that really matters to me, and I would recommend to anybody, because I just do really love my job, and I get very emotional about it sometimes. So.
Well, really excellent bits of advice to end on, y'all. So thank you so much once again for taking the time. Last thing, where should folks go to keep up with Holden, and what else y'all have in store?
Follow us on Instagram.
At Holden Rings on Instagram. We just started a TikTok, which is very fun and experimental. Our website is highholden.com. We're on Facebook. We're all over.
Yeah.
But I think Instagram is really where most of the fun is happening, is what I would say.
So we've got exciting announcements coming up. So
yes,
definitely give us a follow.
Shoot us a DM. Come say hi to me.
Perfect. We'll have all things Holden linked up at the show post at growensemble.com. Andrew, Carrie, thank you so much once again.
Thank you so much, Corey. This is great.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Corey.